directly in the pocket of the National Rifle Association and gun manufacturers across the country. And so I think that, one of the things that we should be encouraging now is for our young people to find organizations in their community or at the national level so that they can get involved and begin to use their voice in a powerful way. I tell all the students that I work with, the only person who can effectively advocate for the issues that you care about is you. And so going into 2025, my big goal is to make sure that that I am reaching out to as many students as possible and getting them involved in ways where they can be effective.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much, because that is, of course, as everyone who knows JC, Transformative Justice Coalition. That is the organization that Daryl and I are co-leaders of, and that Terry is on the board of, that Lewis is on the board of. That is our number one priority, is always young people and helping young people to, facilitate and to be out there as leaders, not just as somebody what other folks want them to do, but as leaders in this movement. Thank you, Andreas, for your leadership and for bringing that voice. Why don't we now talk about, folks, we talked about some of the top issues that are concerning us. Now let's talk about the number one action that you hope that people will do in 2025. The number one action. If there's one thing you want to make sure that our listeners are doing in 2025, what is your number one action? I'm coming straight to you, Terry, and then we're coming to Lewis, then we're coming to Ernie and Andre.
So, Barbara, the number one action that I think people really need to take is this. Find a group you can work with. It's good to get out in the streets and protest when something terrible happens, and trust me, in the next 4 years, many terrible things will happen. But don't just go to the streets. Find a group you can work with. If it's right down at the very local level, say at your school board, and you've got some Moms for Liberty extremists who are trying to stop your kids in public schools from reading, classic literature, then find a PTA you can work with, or find some kind of group that you can work with to begin alerting your neighbors and talking to your neighbors about how this problem at the school board is connected to all of the larger problems, to the growing power of the oligarchs and so forth. That is what you have to do. Get active in your community. Don't just hit the streets.
All right. Whoa. Lewis, come on now, Lewis. That was powerful, Terry. Come on, Lewis. What do you want to say about number one thing you hope and wish, if you could have your magic, influence on everybody? What is the one thing you hope people will do in 2025? What's the number one action they should take?
Pay attention. I hope they take the time to pay attention. I'm in disaster management profession. I'm asking everyone out there to take my word. Pay attention to what's going on in your community, in your environment. Water will become the most critical issue in the next year and a half in this nation. Our food is already being challenged. Topsoil is being missed. The sun is doing its damage in its own way, but we need to pay attention to what's going into our bodies. And so mitigation is how do you minimize what you're taking in. Pay attention to the bottled water you buy, the water that's coming from your tap, and make sure you have enough resources in terms of water within your home, because fresh water, clean water is going to be very difficult to find shortly. And so with that, a lot of things you need, but what you need is water for your system, for your body to be able to be safe. And when you pay attention, you then look out for the other things that are around you, whether it's energy related, whether it's socially related. Start preparing for the challenge that's coming. They've already told you what we're going to look at in oligarchy. Let's be clear on one thing. Your biggest challenge is not going to be the crazies coming down the street, because they're in trouble too. It's this AI. And when you say AI, you ask the people who are on strike. And when they were on strike and they said, well, we're going to do something for you. You want to go out on strike? We're going to employ our robots. And therefore, that was the shortest-lived strike that you've seen in a long time, because those robots could make Amazon run very efficiently while people were on strike. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Take in consideration your environment, all of your environment, and for God's sakes, do not take your eye off the prize.
My. Go ahead, Daryl.
And Professor Quarles, I know that you wanted to weigh in on that as well. But one of the things, I want, and before you weigh in there, Professor Quarles and Andreas, one of the things I wanted to remind people, because Barbara, I know you didn't ask me what was my number one thing, but my number one thing is encouraging people to go to tjcoalition.org. We now are running a ban and affirming book drive, and we are asking people to donate books so that when we go to Alabama for the Selma Bridge Jubilee, that we're able to distribute many of these books. We've got to be certain that many of the issues that, we know there are going to be challenges to the Department of Education, we've got to be certain that we're doing our own business, that we're doing what we can do to be certain that we're educating the forces, educating the populace, educating the people as to all the DEI initiatives that are going to be coming at us as we anticipated hitting in 2025. So, Professor Quarles, I know you want to talk about mass deportation and some other issues. Where are we, Professor Quarles? What would you like to say?
Thank you for that segue, Daryl. Truly appreciate it. I think very clearly the antidote for me, really for what I view as our current sickness as a country, is just reading, learning our history and understanding that we've been here before. And I think that is, at least for me over the past month since the election, is one of the things that I've been able to perceive in many people on both sides of the aisle is this kind of bewilderment as if they have no control, there's nothing they can do, and they're just waiting for the next thing to drop. And, my point is there's been so much research done in the past 25 years to rewrite our true history as a country. And if you go to those sources, you will begin to understand not only what our past history is, but how we can strategize to deal in this current time and space. And so I think, the book drive that you're talking about is critically important. Again, I'll just throw out really some quick titles. Mary Frances Berry, History Teaches Us to Resist, How Progressive Movements Have Succeeded in Challenging Times. George Lipsitz, The Possessive Investment in Whiteness. Jason Stanley, Erasing History, How Fascists Rewrite the Past to Control the Future. Kimberly Crenshaw, the Say Her Name book on Black women's stories of political violence. These are just some of the pieces of the works, scholarly works, that will help you see clear to what the truth is and to what our action needs to be in this moment.
Wow. Ernie, before we get to Andreas, Ernie, please send us your book titles, and we're going to post that on the website at tjcoalition.org. If you were trying to get all those titles down and you didn't, we're going to post those at tjcoalition.org and on all our social media. Send us that list, Ernie. We're on it. We're going to make sure that people can read. Okay, Daryl, back.
Thank you, Barbara.
Yeah, and we were going over to Andreas Cubillos for his thoughts with regards to the actions for 2025. Andreas, I know you're in a really peculiar position because down there in Florida, there's just so much activity that's going on. There are opportunities as well politically that are being opened up because some of the cabinet appointees are coming out of Florida, leaving open some of those elected positions. So, Andreas, what would you like to add in?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think the first step that people should be taking, going into 2025, is to start organizing locally. A lot of these bad pieces of legislation that are going to be taking place, they're going to be, going into action during 2025, have to come up locally. They are enforced at the local level. And so for people who, see these issues, see these bad pieces of legislation and want to get, involved in fighting against them, you have to start at the most local level, organizing your neighbors, organizing your family members, organizing people there in your community. And so when it comes to opportunities in Florida, you're absolutely right. A lot of the new administration's appointees are coming straight out of Florida. We have a Senate seat that's going to be open. We have multiple House seats that are going to be open. We have an Attorney General seat that is going to be open. And so, for us, getting involved in voter registration is going to be one of the biggest things that will help get elected officials who actually care about Floridians into office. Florida has passed numerous voter suppression laws. We had SB 90, which limited a lot of mail-in ballot protections that people had. And so, for me, getting involved in voter registration or getting involved with organizations that promote voter registration across the board are going to be really, really important, especially for Florida with the numerous special elections that we're going to have to go through this year.
And Barbara, I just can't leave this alone. It's just been lingering. It's been bothering me. It's been itching. It's been trying to come out. Barbara, I got to come back and talk about this new senator from Nebraska, Terry O'Neill. Please work with me, Terry. This is the senator now, Senator Debbie Fisher, that's out of Nebraska, and she refuses. Her husband refuses to shake the hand of the sitting vice president on national television and then distances himself from her. Terry, I know you've got to have some opinion on this, because this is the same Nebraska that not only voted against Vice President Harris, but also voted against a woman's right to choose. So is this really a segue of what we're about to experience for the next couple of years in Congress, Terry?
Oh, Daryl, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, Deb Fisher is a woman legislator who is no friend to women. She promotes policies, to be clear, she promotes policies that kill women just so she can make her ideological point. And what do I mean by that? I mean that abortion bans put women at risk, disproportionately low-income women, women of color, and especially black women. We know that black women are 3 to 4 times more likely than white women to die from complications of pregnancy and childbirth. And Deb Fisher's forced birth policies have the impact of pushing, medical professionals out of women's reproductive health care altogether. Well, who do we think that hurts? It hurts the most vulnerable women. So Deb Fisher herself is no friend of women, and I think your listeners need to know that. Now, her husband snubbing Kamala Harris the way he did, that is something we need to understand what he was doing. That is the arrogance of the power that Republicans believe they have. He doesn't think that he or his wife will experience any problems after taking that act. And he was signaling very strongly that a white man does not have to behave respectfully towards a black woman. Period. That's what he was doing. But what we all need to understand is he was signaling to other white men that they don't have to be respectful to people who don't look like them. And he was also signaling that he just doesn't care. And let me tell you, I've been living in the state of Tennessee for not that long, but for about 2 years. For 10 years, Tennessee has been operating as an oligarchy state. And the state legislators here in Tennessee do not care about any voices other than the developers and the business owners that help them get into office. So we're going to start seeing that at a nationwide level, pure arrogance.
Wow. Louis, when we think of that, with that snub, I apologize, with that snub, now he tries to offer a reason, right? Brian Fisher, the husband of the elect Senator Fisher, tries to offer a reason. He said he had a cane in one hand and a Bible in the other. Talk to me, Louis. You can't shake her hand because you have a Bible in your hand?
Come on.
Principle that you want? Come on, Louis.
You're talking to me because I know I'm not getting in the middle of this. This woman from Nebraska is just the equivalent of the man on the Supreme Court. His wife drove a bus to the rally that tried to undermine the United States government. We still let him sit up there to make decisions as he meets with people who are before him, giving them gifts. So we have to ask ourselves as a country, what kind of country do we have and what standards do we have in terms of, respect? And I remember the first time someone yelled out to Obama in the State of the Union address, the very first time, we gave it a pass, and we continue to give them a pass. But the reality is we're in for trouble. We're in for trouble, and how that trouble works is not just for us, because if they don't respect this woman, they won't respect any woman. And if she's willing to take it, if Clarence Thomas is willing to rule against, issues that affect black people in a positive way, then we're in trouble. How we fix it, we get more people. We do like the brother said in Florida, we organize. And we get people in positions where they can push back and fight back. And most of all, don't stop reading. I'm going to recommend the book